Hey guys, Pandragon Dan here, and welcome to the first round of Disney Couples Reshuffled. So, the teams have already been selected. Morgan and I know who's going to be paired up with who, so it's time to begin round one. So in the first of a series of 8 videos, 8 from me and 8 from Morgan, we're going to tell you a little bit about our couples and why you should vote for them. For the first of these videos, I shall be looking at my first team, which comprises of Aurora from Sleeping Beauty and Prince Naveem from Princess and the Frog. So basically, here's our chance to tell you a little bit about our team and why these guys make a great couple. Okay, so for the first set of these videos, I personally will only be looking at the animated films of each of these characters. I will be excluding any animated TV shows or video game appearances they have done, at least for the time being. Then if they get through, I will talk a little bit about that in any future videos. I may also include some live-action films, especially in the case of anything to do with Cinderella and Maleficent, as discussed with Morgan, but I'll purely try and keep it just to like their first appearance in the Disney franchise, where possible. Okay, so let's move on to the first of our couples. Up first, the Sleeping Beauty herself, Princess Aurora. Princess Aurora was voiced by Mary Costa in the Sleeping Beauty films. To be honest, I wasn't able to get a great deal about her, but I know that she was a professionally trained opera singer that did a few other roles, but I believe Sleeping Beauty was her major hit. In the film Maleficent, she was played by Ellie Fanning, whose other works include the CSI series and the film Super 8. Now, Aurora is arguably one of the most tragic Disney princesses, as her problems started pretty much when she was born. When Maleficent wasn't invited to her christening, she was cursed by saying that she would die at the age of 16 by pricking her finger on a spinning wheel. Jeez, talk about someone that doesn't like being invited to parties. After this, she was taken into the custody of the fairies, who tried to keep her safe until the curse passed, although they were able to alter the spell whereby she would fall into a sleep as opposed to death. So that's something, I guess. As a character, Aurora is beautiful and carefree, but somewhat naive. She's also in some ways quite easily manipulated, as Maleficent was able to take control of her when she realised where she was. She also has a marvellous singing voice, which is one of the things that attracted Prince Philip to her. In the film Maleficent, her character has changed slightly in the fact that she actually forms a bond with Maleficent, rather than being kept from her for all this time. Now this adds a bit of conflict in the character, as she then has to kind of choose between the human world, which she is part of, or the fairy world that she wants to be part of. So that's a somewhat more interesting version of her character, if I'm being honest, as she comes across less as a damsel in distress, and more of an independent sort of woman. Now, interestingly enough, Aurora has the least screen time of any of the Disney princesses in the original film, only appearing on screen for about 18 minutes. She's also the first Disney princess to be a friend and enemy of the antagonist, referring to Maleficent. She's also the first Disney princess to, strangely enough, have no physical contact with Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty. They only really communicate once when she's a baby, and the other time Maleficent places her under a spell, but they never actually physically come in contact with each other. Aurora's alias while living with the fairies is called Briar Rose, which actually, interestingly, is the title of the original Brothers Grimm story, so presumably they kept that as a sort of connection to the original tale. Aurora's name translates from Latin to dawn or sunrise, and interestingly enough, she also is the first Disney character to have a name independent from the film in which she appears in. As a Disney princess, she is of royal blood, being one of only 8 princesses to actually be of that. She can also be considered one of the last traditional Disney princesses, as after this, starting especially with the character of Ariel, Disney princesses became more proactive and less reactive of the ones of their time. So there's a few facts for you there about Aurora. Enter her partner, Prince Naveem, Prince of Maldonia. Here are a few facts about Prince Naveem. He was voiced by Brazilian-born actor Bruno Campos, who also had a notable role in the TV series Nip Tuck. As a character, he's a carefree but somewhat sport child who just wants to spend his life doing as little as possible. The only problem is, because of this lifestyle, his parents have cut him off from funding, which means he now has to marry into a rich family in order to get some wealth. Naveem is slightly different to a lot of more traditional Disney princes. He's very selfish and only really cares about living his life the way he wants to. Plus, he's extremely lazy and hardly ever does want to do anything at all. The bad guy of Princess and the Frog, Dr. Facilier, is able to prey on this and promise him that he can give him a life of green, which Naveem thinks he's talking about money, but it's only after he makes a deal he realises he was going to be turned into a frog. And that's why you don't make deals with voodoo priests, or really anyone that can practice black magic in the Disney universe. Sadly, Prince Naveem drags Tiana down with him when he mistakes her for a princess and kisses her, also turning her into a frog in the process. So, as you can tell, Naveem is probably more of an anti-prince than an actual Disney prince, because he doesn't display a lot of the traits that most other Disney princes would. In addition to this, he's also extremely cowardly and selfish, and most of the time it's actually Tiana that ends up having to save him. Girl power! Now I think about it, he's actually very similar to the character of Cusco from The Emperor's New Groove, although he's slightly less annoying. And let's not forget how vain and narcissistic he is. He's also unable to accept his own faults, as when the spell turns Tiana into a frog, he blames her for it, not himself. But despite this, he does have some good points. He is, after all, extremely romantic, and, you know, he is able to eventually woo Tiana with his charms. Later on, he does prove a more humble in personality, which I think is actually the result of Tiana bringing that out of him, because he never would have admitted that otherwise. So he's not entirely selfish, I guess, he's just not what you would consider hero material. But thanks to Tiana, he does actually realise that hard work and enjoying your life can actually be one and the same thing, so as a result of it, he does become a better person. Now, before he became Prince Naveem, the character of the Prince was originally going to be a British royal named Henry. Apparently, two of his major inspirations were going to be Brad Pitt and Cary Grant. Well, a young Cary Grant, anyway. The actual name of Naveem is an Indian name meaning new. This might suggest that the country he comes from is a Eurasian country. After all, the name Maledonia could be a mixture of Malta and Macedonia. That being said, he is quite fluent in Italian, French and English, so that could suggest that Maledonia is a Mediterranean country, maybe possibly set near Monaco or somewhere like that. Now, his appearance was apparently first foreshadowed in the film Enchanted, where a version of the human Naveem first appeared. I haven't actually seen that film in great detail, so this I can't actually confirm, but this is something I'll possibly look at in a future video. So yeah, that's Prince Naveem for you. He may not be one of the most heroic Disney princes, but he does have a soft side to him. So, why would these guys make a good couple? Well, if you think about it, they're not too dissimilar from each other. Why? Because they're lazy as anything. I mean, let's face it, Aurora spends most of her time asleep in her respective film, and Prince Naveem is pretty much as lazy as anything. So if you think about it, all Naveem would have to do to woo her is just give her a kiss. And bear in mind that she's a princess, it means Naveem will get tons of riches, so that would easily solve his money problems. Well, I say he'd wake her up with a kiss, it depends on which version of Aurora you go for. If it's the Maleficent Aurora, then he'd probably have to work a little bit more hard for that, and as we've clearly seen, Prince Naveem isn't exactly the best when it comes to hard work. But who knows? He could end up being the best thing to happen to Aurora. We'll just have to see. And bear in mind his past with dealing with magical enemies, I don't think he fared too well against Maleficent. I mean, Dr. Facilier is one thing, but this is Maleficent we're talking about here. She can turn into a friggin' dragon, so that's pretty awesome. So, that's Aurora and Prince Naveem. Do you think they make a good couple? In the description below, you'll see a link to the voting poll. All you have to do is click on that and click on your favourite. Now, also, Morgan has done her own video about John Smith and Nala, so make sure you check out that video as well before voting. But don't hesitate, the voting will only be open for a short time, so get your votes in while you can. Okay, so that's the first match over with. We will have the next video up in a couple of days' time. In the meantime, please do like and share this video, and do subscribe to our channel for future videos like this. And keep with us for the month of March, where we'll continue Disney Couples Reshuffled. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, bye!